Good afternoon, everyone. How are you doing today? So over the last week or so, I've done a couple of videos about the fact that I do not believe it is possible to have a 40 to 50% collapse in real estate prices nationally in the next 15 months. I know there's a lot of folks out there that are screaming, real estate collapse, real estate collapse. Well, most of them are screaming because the price is at record levels, or they're screaming about unemployment. I believe both of those numbers are important. They are relevant, but they do not rise to the level individually as the affordability index. The affordability index, in my opinion, is the collection of wages, interest rates, and price, and it helps you average out for the population of that area. So what I've done, because of the very loud and very passionate feedback I have received, is I went out and collected 20 years of history about unemployment in Fresno, California, price in Fresno, California, and the affordability index. We are going to look at each individually. We are then going to relate each individually to each other. Then we're going to talk about some of the data or some of the trends inside that. And, hopefully this research is interesting. Again, I only have it for Fresno, California. It's out there, it's accessible. I'll tell you again, but my sources were Zillow for price and the St. Louis Fed for affordability and for price, or unemployment, unemployment. So go ahead, let's take a look. And again, this is all research that you could do for your area. All right, so again, this is 20 years. I went back to Q1 of 1999. I wanted to look at a long time, so I'm not, so nobody can come back to me and say, hey, you're just talking about this or that. I wanted to capture pre-crisis last time. Again, we are looking at three metrics: unemployment, affordability, and the median price. Again, the sources were Zillow and St. Louis Fed. St. Louis Fed actually has a lot of data about real estate at least the major metro level. I don't know how granular they get. They had a ton of information about Fresno all the way back until the 90s, which was very helpful for this exercise. So first off, median price. I've been told by many YouTube followers and comments that, you know what, price is everything. Prices are too high. Prices. Price is not the issue, in my opinion. Because if you look at this chart, there's that big left-hand sort of peak in, let's see, can I see when it peaked? Oh, nope, I'm in slide share mode. So it peaked in 06, I think. We'll see in a minute. Actually, there it is. It peaked in Q3 of 2006 at $284,250. That's the peak. Interest rates back then were about 6.25. The payment today on that same purchase price is 40% less. And oh, by the way, wages are up in the last 14 years. So it's very annoying and it's insulting when people yell at me and say, hey, Michael, you're wrong. Prices today are higher than last time. You've not been in the game long enough to make that statement. It's not about price. It's about the 30-year mortgage payment your buyer is signing up for. Payments today are less. I don't know what else to tell you. So again, peak pricing, again, Fresno, California. Feel free to use your own city. St. Louis Fed, again, had a great source for me. I'm sure it does for you too. The low in this search was Q3 of 99. Again, remember, I went all the way back to Q1 of 99. That was the data the Fed had, so I used it. And, that was interesting. It went up over 7 years. As you'll note at the bottom of the slide, this is important for you, I think, if you're calling for a crash in a year. The greatest single-family home real estate crash, most foreclosures, most NODs, most bad things, it took almost 6 years to go from peak to trough, from high to low. Now, they did drop 49% or $140,000. But folks, it doesn't drop in 12 months. If you were calling for a collapse in 12 months, you don't understand. It takes 7 months to go through a full foreclosure process. Banks are working with people like they never have before. We could absolutely see a real estate slowdown, but stop saying we're going to have a 40 or 50% crash in a year. It's not possible. The worst time ever took 6 years. Banks are different today. Lending is different today. Fixed versus variable today. People have equity today. It's just not the same. So, okay. So peak pricing. What was unemployment during peak pricing? Well, unemployment in Fresno was 8.2%. Interesting. We'll see that chart next, I believe. What was unemployment during, at 99? It was 13.1%. So that kind of makes sense, right? It starts from a low of unemployment, and you can think the economy gets stronger. But as you'll see in a minute, and when we look at unemployment, the numbers they don't line up as cleanly as you would like. But what about the affordability? Where was affordability when we had peak pricing in 2006? It was still 40%. That's interesting. And what was the low? When we had low price, it was 54. So not a huge swing. So we'll look at affordability index in the two charts. Okay, again, I got to stress, peak to trough took almost 6 years. It did fall almost 50%, but in the worst market, highly volatile, lots of dumb loans, lots of people shouldn't have been owners. It doesn't collapse in 12 months. That should be a takeaway from this slide. All right, so let's look at unemployment. So unemployment peaked in 2010. Interesting. When did prices peak? If you look at the other slide, 2006. So unemployment peaked in Q4 2010. Unemployment, we were having at least in Fresno, the economy was smoking hot. They had never had, at least in 20 years, unemployment under 7% until Q4 of 2019. The economy was as strong as it's ever been over 20 years. Interesting. And you could see it shot up. So just for grins, at the bottom of the slide, from Q4 2019, just in 6 months, so the end of Q2, unemployment shot all the way up to 15%. That's insane. It more than doubled, right? Yep, more than doubled in 6 months. So what happened during the peaks? So again, when unemployment in 2010, unemployment was, or the affordability was 67%. It's, that means the job market's not great. Prices, not great, but they certainly have better prices. And again, the unemployment, when the unemployment was low at 6.8, half the community could still afford to buy the average home. Prices in Fresno have plenty of room to run, assuming things stay the way they are. But what was median price? All right, what was median price? So when unemployment was at 16.9%, the median price was basically 160K. When prices were, or when unemployment was at 6.8%, the prices were at 249,100. So basically 250. Interesting. All right, so now the affordability index. This is the one I watch. This is the one that tells me when it's time to sell. So it peaked in 2012. Best time to buy was 2010 through 2012. Nobody was buying. It was easy to qualify. Low, 19. that was the time to sell. Below 20% is a problem. And in Q4 2005, which was the bottom, Q3, Q4 tied for 19%. Those were the worst loans created and sold by Wall Street inside CDOs. They were pulling from the bottom to sell the new loans. And you can see what happens after that is it explodes. Affordability explodes higher as prices drop, interest rates drop. So what are some thoughts and feedback? Here are the charts together, right? On one chart. I didn't know how to do them together because two of them are percentages and the scales are different. But here you go. For my takeaway, you know, unemployment peaks long after prices fall, right? It's a kind of delay. Affordability goes up as unemployment goes up, which you might suspect. And then again, these are some sort of how-tos. So after the affordability low of 19%, which again was in 2005, I believe, which was 19%, prices still went up for another year, right? Affordability is income, prices, and interest rates. So even though affordability got a little better, after that, prices still went up. When affordability was at the low, unemployment still fell for 5 quarters. When the affordability was at the peak of 72, prices went up for years, like 6 or 7 years. When the affordability peaked, unemployment fell for years. So there is some hand in hand here. When you hit the bottom at 19 or your city's low, prices and unemployment don't go hand in hand. But when you find a peak affordability, you have years to run, years for prices to get better, years for unemployment to fall. Finally, for all the people talking about unemployment, unemployment peaked at 16.9%, and it remained, prices remained below that for 10 quarters, 2.5 years, if you make a connection between prices and unemployment. When unemployment peaked at 16.9%, affordability remained below that the same time frame for 2 years. So there's not this direct one-to-one communication. Real estate sells. What I'm trying to highlight here is real estate doesn't directly connect with unemployment. Prices don't directly connect with unemployment. Unaffordability, again, is a marriage of indicators that when you tie average wages, average interest rate with average prices, it tells you where the market could go. Again, remember this, when unaffordability was at its peak, I think it was 72, and it started to come down, prices ran for years. Unemployment fell for years. But when the affordability index was at its low, prices still went up for another year and unemployment still fell for a year. So not quite a hand-in-hand communication. So again, these metrics came from the St. Louis Fed and from Zillow. And again, I still follow the affordability index. It's a nice marriage. I don't believe it's about unemployment only. I don't believe it's about price only. I understand forbearance, but it's not the same. The loan product today is very different. It's not variable. Lending is far stronger today. Unemployment is high, but it's disproportionately hitting the renter class than the owner class. You know, I think the balloon gets fatter. I think 2021 prices are up. I think we are going to be in a balloon. I think the balloon is going to expand. And I think it could absolutely pop. But remember, a crash, the worst crash we had in real estate was 6 years peak to trough. Yes, it fell 49% in Fresno's example, but it doesn't do it in a year. Real estate doesn't move that fast. It just doesn't move that fast. So again, let me know what you think. Hopefully this is more data for the folks that tell me I'm wrong, I'm an idiot, I'm stupid, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what to say. Here's the data. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.